Hi, I'm Peter Brousseau for 101 Small Business Mastermind, and I have with me Frank Syringa. Say good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Frank.
And I'll remind everybody about Frank's Entrepreneurs and Misfits meeting. Frank, you want to just talk about that a second before I get into my block?
Yeah, we had 5 people attend in 5 different industries, and we spent the entire meeting talking about where each of us could be different, so that our phone rings as opposed to us ringing other people. And it was the beginning. It's an exercise that small business owners, entrepreneurs should do, in fact, must do on a regular basis. In which you find something that makes you different, makes you desirable, so that people say, hey, I just heard you do such and such, can we talk? And you like those kinds of phone calls. So that was our meeting. It was a good meeting, very good meeting.
All right. Hopefully we'll talk a little bit about Facebook at the end, but who can get away from the Facebook stuff? But I did see one of the commentaries on it, and they say everybody's trying to get into podcasting now. And if you're lucky enough to have a podcast show, I guess YouTube has changed their monetizing policies, right? So one guy was getting like $6,000 a month, and his show wasn't as popular as it needed to be, so they changed their policy, their algorithm, and went to $1,000 a month. It's decimated all these content generators.
Wow.
Where YouTube used to be, you could put up anything. Now they want more finished podcasts. Hey, I've been saying that all the way along. It was actually a breath of fresh air to go back to, you didn't have to worry about what you're putting up there, but now you do. So podcasting is certainly coming back around again to be one of the most preferred ways of making money and influencing people. So, okay, my A block, let me share the first thing. We're going to talk about competition, and everybody's got competition, unless of course they're lucky enough to work with you and have none, but most of us have competition. Make this a little larger for us here, and let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, I can see Walter Clock.
Okay, so this happens to be a competitive worksheet that I did that's in one of the products that I sell, actually, to show, and this is a competition with a potential client that I have. And, well, I had anyway. So I set this thing up, and I did an index, a color thing, a direct competition, whether the direct competition for my client or not. And I went out and I found all these various places that we can, oh, here we go, places that we look at, and then I analyze where the location is. Are they close to my guy? The practice areas. My guy is a personal injury guy, so anybody with PI or PI only is probably a better hit than when they spread themselves out thin. Anyway, does their website have any keywords, yes or no, and I can use those to hunt with Market Samurai on better keywords. And what their social media play is, are they using videos, which is a high interest thing these days, and then anything interesting about the site. I also go over and get a Woo ranking on these guys, and then any other stuff, and I put in my rating. So not to bore everybody to tears, but you kind of got to go down this list, and once you do this for each particular potential client, you get an idea of what they're not doing. And to use one of your analogies all the time, Frank, is always don't do the same thing they do something different.
Right.
And so one of the things I start to summarize here is what I found. I always say video is must on the site, and you can find out how many of them are, in fact, doing video. Out of the 20 competition companies, 50% use social media, so there's an ideal right there. However, 10% were real users. So there's a place to go, and I always suggest we use social media to help drive traffic into the site. About 50% had video, but again, only 10% were any good. So again, huge opportunity to start pumping video in. You can spend money making videos and getting them on your site. No one had any podcasts whatsoever. Wow, that's pretty crazy, you know? And so obviously on the hit list is a podcast. Um, only 10% had blogs. Again, so this starts to tell you what you got to start to do um, to outrun your competition, go where they're not. No one had any matched URL name schemes, and we've covered that several times. But basically, it's a keyword that people are search for, and then we can compete for, etc. And then we use that into a domain name for your website. And then, so no one had any matched keyword strategy at all. 9 of the PI's personal injury websites had bad keywords, of which were absolutely useless, and there was 20 I looked at. So the keyword research became very important. But you can start to see how important this really could be in your strategy play for your business, online and off, quite frankly. And look at this one. None of them had a mobile site. Can you believe that, Frank?
Amazing in today's world.
Isn't that crazy? And of course, mobile apps, nothing. Uh, um, so, and of the strongest competition, their website had really good Woo ranks standing. So it even showed more the need for us to compete in that world to make sure ours is even better. And so the bottom line is it's a very competitive space for traffic, but the strategic use of video, exact match URLs, landing pages, podcasting, good blog, excellent keywords, and mobile site should guarantee that this gentleman would dominate this space altogether. So it's a very important thing for people to do, is to understand their competition. And how many times, Frank, do we hear, oh, I have no competition?
Right.
You know? So let me stop sharing that and pick up any things you want to say about that before I go to the next topic.
If you're going to have a website, and you should, and if you don't, then you don't exist on the online world. You might as well have the best, given what you have to work with, and this analysis shows you where the weaknesses are.
Yeah,
not only where yours, but where theirs are.
Oh yeah.
So you can capitalize on their weaknesses, and hopefully they won't know until it's too late that, how did you get ahead of me in such a way?
But you know how you always preach, don't be the same. Be something different in your space. And this is actually a path to ensure there's a recipe to be different.
Yes.
And
yes.
It supports everything you had to say. I've always done competition analysis, but I didn't tie it in with what you had to say before. And I think it's one of the strongest statements of a Frank Syringa-ism. Be different, have no competition. This essentially would lead you so far away from the competition, you might not have any competition. It's not quite the same. And I always like to say, and you even quoted it the other day, it's like you should be like a dog sled team. If you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes.
It's not very pretty.
Well, I know, but it's the truth, So in this particular case, you want to be that lead dog sled leader. And so this type of tool, whether you use mine or anybody else's, I think is a critical thing before you spend a single dollar in building your website, to help you dominate your space and to help you be different, everything that you talk about in your twins, as a matter of fact. Okay, this week in the news.
Yep.
Just actually morphing itself into greater business lessons, which we see. Frank, you want to pull your camera down just a little bit for me?
Sure.
Yeah. And you're welcome. I should have done that earlier. There we go. Okay. Now, oh man, that's perfect. Okay. Ready to go to the next one?
We're ready. Go.
All right. We're going to share the screen and we're going to go to my next one. Okay. So one of the members of your new Entrepreneurs and Misfits Club talked to me about our website last week, and I said, the week before, and I said I'd do an analysis of our current website. And through the times, for years, I've been using this, finding out what things actually successful websites um, utilized. And, and so these are the best practices of those websites that are successful. So with a form like this, you can kind of go right down the form and get the page rank. Are their keywords any good? Are they Google friendly? There's 8 places to put your keywords in a page in your site. And that's what we mean by Google friendly. Is there a subscription box? I won't go down through all this stuff, but you know, all this stuff is designed again to be different, to give you a higher woo rank, separate yourself from the crowd. You know, and some of these are testimonials, for example, which is the reason people purchase for you. The purchasing equation is people purchase for emotion backed up by logic. You know, the page usually is the emotional side of the buy. You know, here, get this, save this money, do whatever. And the testimonials to say, oh, this really is a good deal. You know, here are people that have used it and they really like it. It's the logical part of the purchasing equation. So all of these things are super critical. I've got some on one side and more behind the scenes on the other side. And as I'm going down through their review, I do search terms, see where they find out in their position, any notable issues, prescription to fix a web-based business if they have one, prescription to fix the website, and then this is a keyword analysis section that if I do find, well, when I do a woo rank, whether they have made keywords for themselves or not, WooRank says, well, these are what Google thinks you want to be listed for. So we go through an analysis there to show you how you don't want Google to decide that. You want to decide that. So this is a very important form that I believe we ought to alert our watchers to get a form like this and utilize it. And when I do a website review, I put in chunks of video for each one of those that they don't have. So it teaches them all about what they need to do.
So all of those red boxes that said no are problems.
Yeah, well, I have it, yes, I have it defaulted to that, and I have to move them over to the green column if it isn't a problem. Okay. Yeah, I can show you another, let me see, and I'll have to sanitize this a second here as I bring it up. Here's one I just recently analyzed. Let me get it larger. And so at the end of the analysis, you can see most of this is red, some are greens, right? Some are yellows that they kind of sort of did it, but they didn't, you know, and it goes on down through. And then here's search terms. They weren't found at all for anything, notable issues. Here are their, so this is, they had no keywords identified, but this is what they thought. WooRank said this is what Google thinks you want to be ranked for, and none of them are any good. I mean, look at the competition. We can compete with stuff that are above or below 100,000, and this is, you know, there's only one, and that's Performer, but that's not even below 100,000. That's 17,000. So, you know, it's one of those things where, excuse me, not 1,000. We can compete with anything under 100, right. Excuse me, not 1,000. So none of these are any good. And then, you know, the only ones that did, there were 2 here. One had a huge number of competition, but no searchers on either one of them. So it showed you the fallacy of their website keyword strategy completely. And, you know, having gone through this, I always come up here. Let me make that a little bit larger here again so we can see that. And I come up here and say, hey, you know, here are the quick fixes. This is what you got to do to get back in the game. Doesn't make it perfect, but here's the quick fixes. You know, get some keywords, fix your meta tags. We talked about all of those little things last week. You know, get your e-com fixed, get your social media on your site. Person had social media but wasn't linked at all, and it was somebody else's social media account on, well, for YouTube. You know, all of this is the absolute wrong answer. They even used inverse video, which is it says white lettering on black, it's 25% harder for the human eye to read. Why would you do stuff like this? Well, they don't know. But anyway, this is the joy of a forum like this, that you can actually go do that. Give them a prescription. It's all on video. Use me, use anybody else, but here's how you fix your website. And you can start to see there's an awful lot of these pieces that funnel into a successful website for a successful business online, a successful web presence, you know. And you're thinking, comments.
Yeah, I am. Do you offer this service as a package?
Oh, actually, I do the reviews for free.
Okay.
You know, good, bad, or ugly. It's a way, and here's the balance for me. These web guys, they all do hard sells on people and give them garbage and then get them all afraid. I don't want to walk out of fear. I want to walk out of knowledge. And I want these people to understand who they're dealing with, a person that knows how this stuff is put together. Because remember, so briefly, when I first moved out to the desert, I took 2 years off of doing anything and studied the web, how to drive traffic into websites. And all of this stuff came out of that 2 years, literally 2 years of sitting here working on this and studying other people and studying things. So I want these people to understand what it takes. Now, I have competition. So they're going to go look at other people and ask for bids and stuff like that. And nobody's going to come up with anything like this. They won't address any of this stuff because they're not internet marketing people that actually, by the way, build successful websites. They may have built beautiful websites, but they're not internet marketing people that drive traffic. And like we always say, if you have no traffic, you can't convert and you'll have no customers. Wrong answer. So I do this for free to show them what they got to do. And they can use me, or they can show this to the other guys, which they usually do, by the way, Frank. The other guys say, oh, we don't know anything about this. We don't know about that. Really starts to say, I don't have any competition when it comes to building a website for somebody. Goes along your line again. What makes me different? Don't do the same thing they do.
Okay.
Fair enough, right?
No, but that's okay.
Oh, it's not okay?
No. Well, I don't know. I would like to give you another opinion. I gave a talk, had to be a year and a half, 2 years ago, of a girl who quit high school because she was pregnant.
Oh, I remember this.
And,
A twin. It was a twin.
yeah. And a few years later, she was pregnant again, but this time she was living in a homeless shelter. And her parents were advertisers and her grandfather was a marketer and so forth. And she looked at her kids and says, I can't give my kids the life they deserve living in a homeless shelter. And she was a high school dropout. And she did something similar to you, not for websites, but for business ideas. And she did it for an hour. It was a concentrated hour, and she charged $150. And at the end of that hour, she told you she thought your new idea was good or bad, what would make it better, and if it was viable or not. And she charged $150, take it or leave it. And they could take that and go any place else they wanted with it. And she wound up doing, I don't know, 60, 600, I forgot what the number was, a lot of money. And now she's doing quite well, over 6 figures a year. And she's still a high school dropout. No longer lives in a homeless shelter, by the way. But she did a service not as valuable as yours. And but she said, why don't you give it for free? She said, this is what I do. She says, I bring expertise that nobody has and her perspective. And you do stuff that you said they take it to other people and they say, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know how to do this. It's a valuable, whether you have a website or you're thinking of doing a website, like the couple I talked to today about. I know you did it for them. It's an extremely valuable website, you know. And anyway, but that was my first thought. I was thinking about.
Let's talk about that, because what I did anyway is kind of a cross between what you just talked about. When I talked with them 2 weeks ago, I said, hey, you're not thinking big enough, which is one of the things Ant and Simpson and myself always said. you know, this woman was trying to do and she didn't know it, the dance studio slash martial arts studio website to draw within 5 to 10 miles, and that's all you're going to ever get. Open yourself up, put your lessons on video for sale on the web around the world. And you can see the light go on in her head. Holy Toledo. Yeah, you're not thinking big enough. You need to use Zoom like this to have dance meetings with your potential clients or groups of clients. Now you can start to see a 2-tiered website, personal instruction with this woman one-on-one through video, live video off of Zoom that you can record and put up for prosperity, or 2, the group version of that. So you could go into rest homes all over the world, you know, with a laptop, even an iPad set up. I mean, these things, you can do it with a netbook. You can purchase a netbook for about $125, I think, you know, that, and you know, she could even purchase them, send it to the rest home per se, right? And then charge them a fee later on, or to get it back, they agree to pay everything if they lose it. But I mean, look at the amount of money you could make around the world, not just a 5-mile radius. So we did a business expansion in their head. I mean, her head was spinning when I got done with all of this.
Right.
To include every one of the videos that you make personally, you could sell, you know, as a series that people don't need to see you. They just buy your videos online. So you could do 10 dance videos, movements for the elderly, for the almost elderly, for the non-elderly, and all the various genres, and put those up for sale, and you take money in PayPal at night while you're sleeping. Does it get any better than that? You know, I don't think it does. So we did a kind of a fusion of these two ideas. This best practices form was for her website, but you know, my talk with her is to get her to think outside the 5-mile radius box that the standard dance studio slash martial arts studio exists in today. How about that?
Let me tell you a story about Nev Lapwood.
Okay.
I did a twin on him about 1.5 years ago. Nev lived up in New England, northern New England, and I'm going to be kind. He was a ski bum. He loved to ski. But then he loved to snowboard. And that's all he wanted to do was snowboard. Well, that's nice if you have his part-time job, but he didn't like to work when he was snowboarding. So people asked him if they would if he would teach them how to snowboard. So he started making money doing snowboarding lessons. This is up in Vermont, New Hampshire area. And son of a gun. But you know what happens in the spring? People stop taking snowboard lessons because there's no more snow.
In the North America.
Bingo. Nev videotaped his snowboard lessons. And he sells them all over the world.
I think we have a twin on that too.
I did. That's a twin. I did that twin.
Yeah, I remember.
And he makes multi-6 figures a year. And you know what he does all day? Snowboards wherever the snow is.
Wherever he wants.
Because he's making money with his lessons.
Yeah, now there you go. That's something that, you know, I've been pushing real hard on my Defender businesses, you know, so, and they go in spurts, but it's very clear, you know, what you got to do. You got to do stuff like that, you know. Videos are sexy. Everybody loves them, you know. And yeah, I mean, Google blacklists me, so to speak, on my weapon site, so I have to get traffic from other ways, you know. So I get traffic from Facebook. I get traffic from I don't do Twitter too much, but I do get traffic from Twitter. I'm on a couple of of regular TV stations as a guest speaker. The Codes and Conspiracies, I think you knew that. And so whenever that airs, you know, I always get a ton of orders from that. But I have to go do this distributive approach that they can't just completely knock me out. But, you know, going back to the Facebook thing, I guess we're kind of talking a little bit about that. Between Google and Facebook, they control 70% of the online digital advertising. 70%.
Yep.
Wow. And with their algorithms on on Facebook, they penalize you if you don't go along with the community values, their community values, which are usually liberal.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the end. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have some thoughts about that.
right. And what the real damage of building your brand on somebody else's platform comes up one more time. It's why you want to put your money in your own site, your own platform. Not, I get all these people. Oh yeah, well I just use YouTube or I use Yelp. That's their strategy. Well, that's so idiotic as a business strategy. It's almost not worth talking about. But do you know how many people I run into? They won't spend any money on their own website, but they're going to go after everything free on somebody else's platform. And when they change the algorithm or don't like you, you're gone.
Yeah.
Years and years and years gone. Big O. All right, that is my conversation for the morning here. And I believe
I
you're up.
love that sound. That means it's time for this week's twin or this week in the news. And I talk about a person who is a newsmaker, was a newsmaker, or will be a newsmaker. And this week, my person is a woman named Alexa von Tobel.
Who the heck is, well, I won't say the first name because my echo
Right.
will light off with
Ms.
that.
von Tobel.
Yeah, who's Ms. von Tobel?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Alexa. I'm glad you asked. She was born in 1984. She's a millennial. She is in Jacksonville, Florida. It was an upper middle class home. Her mom was a nurse practitioner, and her dad was a pediatrician. And as you can imagine, in Alexa's home, education and reading and learning were very important. And Alexa reminisces, and she says, I learned 4 lessons in my youth. And she shares them. Lesson number 1 was when she was 5 years old. 5 years old. Her dad came to her and says, Alexa, this is the pediatrician. He says, I'm going to make a proposal to you. If you read 1 book a day, and there were books all over the home, if you read, at 5 years old, if you read 1 book a day, I will pay you $10. $10 to a 5-year-old is a lot of money. She probably thought she could buy a car. Okay? So you know what she did? She read a book a day, and she earned her $10. The lesson Alexa learned was if you work hard, you will be rewarded for your efforts. Quite a lesson to learn when you're 5 years old. Lesson number 2 came when Alexa was 10 years old. Her dad had created a college savings account, and he sat down with her at 10 years old, mind you, and showed her how much money was into the account, how much money was in there last year, how much money was in there this year, how much he's putting in, and he taught her how to read the account. At 10 years old. And here's a lesson Alexa learned from this lesson. Saving money takes time. If you invest wisely, you can watch your money grow, which is exciting. And even small contributions add up. 10 years old, mind you. I was worrying about Ted Williams. Lesson number 3. Alexa's mom, who was a nurse practitioner, she was a saver as well. As Alexa, being kind, would say, I grew up in a frugal household because her mom was a saver. Let me give you an example. She says at Christmas time, because they cost less, her presents were always the generic version, not the brand name version, because her mom was trying to save money. But when the family took trips to Europe, which they didn't cut back. It was amazing. Here's a lesson Alexa learned that when she was a kid. Prioritize what you spend on things, and spending money on experiences brings more happiness than spending money on things. Wow. I wonder how many of us know that today. But then came lesson number 4. And this was a lesson that changed Alexa's life forever. As a teenager, Alexa would go to her dad's pediatrician office for a job. I mean, he was teaching her how to work. and she would do filing, and she would clean up all the toys. Remember, her dad was a pediatrician. There were kids all over the place. And she did whatever odd jobs needed to be done because that was Alexa's job as a teenager. And she was paid minimum wage, but because she was paid, Alexa had to learn how to budget her money so that she could buy the things that she wanted. But one day, and Alexa knows the date, on June 9th, 1988, Alexa was 14. Alexa told her dad, he says, you know, Dad, I really do want to go to work today, but just this one day, just one day, please. Can I just go hang out with my friends? And the dad said, okay, Alexa, you will not be paid, but that's okay. Remember, Alexa was a teenager. So Alexa went and hung out with her friends. And she came home later that day after hanging out with her friends, and her home was surrounded by police cars. And she says, you know what, 14, I know something bad had just happened. On his way to work, where Alexa said she wanted to hang out with her friends, her dad was involved in a horrific car crash, and he died instantly. Alexa was not in that car because she wanted to hang out with her friends. Now remember, both her parents were highly educated, nurse practitioner, pediatrician. And they had different jobs. Her mom managed a family budget. Remember I said she was frugal, she managed family budget. And her dad managed the family investments. That was how they split the work. And her mom was one tough cookie. She was bold, but she was very, very smart. But after the death that day, June 9th, 1988, of Alexa's dad, her mom was helpless. She had no clue. She had no idea where the investments were. She had no idea how much money they had. Her husband took care of that. And she had no idea what to do next. She was lost. And this is a bold, smart, strong woman. This made her, Alexa, teenage Alexa, sick to her stomach. Not only did her family have to deal with the unexpected death of her dad, her mom now had another thing to worry about, money. But fortunately, her dad had a life insurance policy with Northwestern Mutual, and that helped the family get by. He took care of the family. Here's a lesson that Alexa learned, which changed her life. He says, people need to be educated, even highly educated people, on how to deal with money issues and planning. She was 14 years old. So Alexa goes to school and goes to college. She went to Harvard University to study the things that she was interested in. And remembering what her mom went through, she went to Harvard, and she went to her class planner, and she said, I'd like to take some classes on basic financial planning. She says, I don't know any more than my mom did when my dad died. She says, how many credit cards should I have? How much of my income should I spend on housing? This is basic stuff. How much should I save every month? Where should I save every month? And her counselor at Harvard says, we don't offer such a class. Alexa goes, there might be a business opportunity here. So Alexa graduated from Harvard, and her first job was as a trader at Morgan Stanley in Manhattan. Now, Alexa knew she did not want to be a stock trader for the rest of her life. She says, you know what? This is a good place for me to build my foundation and think about what I really want to do with my life. She knew that she wanted to build something and create something that was special and exciting, because that's the kind of person she was. She just didn't know what she was, but here's what Alexa did. She kept a notebook with her, and every time she would get an idea, she would write it down in a notebook. Every time she thought of something that she would get excited about, she would write it down in a notebook. So she was building her library of what she was going to do the rest of her life. But while working at Morgan Stanley, Alexa struggled with the basic financial questions. Do I put my money in a 401k or an IRA? She didn't know. How many credit cards should I have? There's that question again. How much income should I pay for housing? You know, what percentage of money should I pay for housing? And she thought to herself, wait a minute. I have no family, because I'm not married. I have no mortgage because I don't own anything. I have no kids. I don't have to worry about college education. And I still don't know what the hell to do. She says, am I that stupid? She graduated from Harvard. So Alexa says, well, maybe it's just me. So she went to her coworkers and her friends, all in their 20s. Alexa was about 20, 21 at the time. And she says, well, what do you guys know about financial planning? Help me out because I don't know what the hell to do with these questions. And here's what Alexa learned from her friends. They too had no idea what the hell to do. They too were confused. And they says, well, that's because financial planning is something you do when you get older. You don't have to worry about it when you're in your 20s. And they said, and by the way, Alexa, this is really boring stuff. Can we talk about something more exciting? Alexa thought to herself again, there must be a business opportunity here. So Alexa began seriously thinking about starting a business to address this opportunity. But there was one big problem. When Alexa thought about starting a business before this, it was always to do something cool and something exciting. Teaching financial literacy was not exciting, and it definitely wasn't cool. But she couldn't get it out of her mind. She said she really cared about how much she didn't know about financial literacy. And she remembered her mom didn't know anything either, and she was educated when her dad died. She became obsessed with solving this problem. And she knew she had to do something about it. So in 2006, at the age of 22, Alexa, living in Manhattan as a stock trader for Morgan Stanley, she gave up her social life. She spent her nights and weekends thinking about how to start a business teaching financial planning and literacy. She thought and she wrote in her book. She thought and she wrote in her book. And she created a 75-page business plan. And she kept on working on it. 2 years later, in 2008, Alexa entered Harvard Business School. But 2008, two big things happened in 2008. Number one, the economy crashed in 2008, and people were terrified about what the hell is the best thing for them to do, or whatever little money they had left after the crash. And Alexa says, this crisis pushed me to say no, that now was the best time to start her business because the world needed financial planning and literacy more now than ever. So 90 days after entering Harvard Business School, Alexa made the scariest decision of her life. She quit Harvard Business School to start her business. She had a lot of plans, but she quit. She remembers flying from Boston to New York, the shuttle. And she cried all the way. She was scared. She says, I'm a rule follower. She was a trader. They follow rules. She says, I'm not a risk taker. What the hell am I doing? But she remembered a psychology class she took when she was at Harvard undergraduate school. And in this class, they asked a bunch of 90-year-olds, what did they regret? And not one person regretted the things they did. But every person regretted the risks they didn't take. And Alexa says, I'm ready to take this risk. I left Harvard Business School. I'm going to move to New York City, the financial capital of the world, and I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to call it LearnVest, where I'm going to teach you how to manage your money. Alexa was scared, but she was determined. Alexa was an analyzer. I don't know if she was an engineer, but she was an analyzer. And here are some of the facts that Alexa gathered that convinced her that now was the time to create a company called LearnVest. Listen to these stats. Most people do not know how to organize and manage their finances. I don't care how old you are, they don't know that. The average U.S. household has $16,000 in credit card debt. 2 out of 3 people have left less than $1,000 in their savings account. The people who are retiring, the median amount of income they have is $5,000. And when Alexa talked to her peers, what we call the millennials, they think that learning financial literacy, financial planning is intimidating. It's something you do get older. And oh, by the way, Alexa, it is still boring as hell. So Alexa started a company called LearnVest to demystify financial planning, but she was going after the millennial generation. These people did not have a lot of money now because they were just starting out, but you know what? They hoped to have a lot of money later in life. But there was one big problem with starting a company called LearnVest. Alexa arrived in New York City with all her life savings. To her credit, she was 20 some years old, 22, 24 years old. She had saved $75,000 because her mom taught her how to be frugal. But LearnVest, according to a plan, was going to be an internet-based education company. She needed to hire a CTO. She knew that. And a bunch of engineers, she called them engineers, and each one was going to demand that they make between $150,000 and $200,000 a year. She needed a bunch of them. And she says, my $75,000 is not going to be enough. She says, I figured I needed to raise $750,000 to start her company. But that was another problem. Alexa had never raised money before. But she was determined. She was obsessed is what she was. So Alexa had a game plan. Listen to her game plan. She says, from day one, I was going to open up my laptop and I was going to start hustling. She contacted everyone she knew, and she would take a meeting with anyone who would meet with her. She would ask people for advice and introductions and money. She would pay for lunch meetings, and she would pay for coffee meetings. Alexa dedicated 100% of her time and effort to find money to start her obsession called LearnVest. After a year and a half, in 2009, she was now 25, Alexa, remember, he had a goal of raising $750,000. Alexa had raised $1.1 million. How was she able to raise this amount of money when she had no experience as a CEO running her own company, and she had never raised money before? Aside from being determined, here's what Alexa had going for her. Alexa had her 75-page business plan, which Alexa states nobody ever read besides her. But she knew her 75-page plan backwards and forwards and in numbers. There wasn't one number they could ask her that Alexa didn't have background and backup information for. Alexa was passionate about her mission, and Alexa was all in. There was no one more committed than her because she quit her job and left our business going. Remember, she left after 90 days. But in my opinion, she doesn't state this, but I believe this is true. What really made investors give her money and want to invest in Alexa was how she described her target market. She was going to target the younger millennial audience. I was in that business. We were always told you go after people with at least $250,000 for $500,000. These people had no money. They had no education. They were underserved. Alexa says, I'm going to become the solution for the money that whatever they had today and the money that they hoped they would have in the future. I was going to teach them how to manage that money because no one else was spending time with them. I'm going to do it on a subscription service because they don't have any money, but they can afford lattes and cappuccinos. I'm going to get some of their lattes. She says, I'm going to teach them so that they understand what they should do with their money. She says, I'm going to provide them with an education and the tools to manage the money they had and the money they're going to have and the money they want to have in the future. She says, and I'm going to hold them accountable because they're going to make commitments to me, how to manage their wallet. She used the term wallet because every millennial had a wallet without much money. She says, we're going to manage your wallet. They could understand that. She says, and I'm going to provide them financial advice by telephone 24 hours a day, because millennials have their own hours. One investor who had originally rejected Alexa's pitch came back and said, Alexa, I'm in. He says, I think you're nuts, but you are totally committed. And he gave her money. On January of 2010, Alexa now was 26 years old. LearnVest was launched, subscription service. On the first day that they launched, she had 4,500 subscribers, and their site crashed. They couldn't handle it. In their first month, LearnVest had 10,000 subscribers. A few weeks later, remember this was January, a few weeks later, Valentine's Day as a matter of fact, Alexa had tons of venture firms who wouldn't talk to her before, contacting her asking to invest in her company. So Alexa wound up raising an additional $5 million. Eventually, Fortune 500 companies heard about LearnVest, and they said, hey, can we, as at our expense, subscribe our entire workforce so you can teach them how to manage their money? And they did. And LearnVest was on its way to great things. To create a financial plan back in 2009, 2010, which is when I was in the business, to create a good one with a professional cost $9,000 to $19,000, sometimes $25,000. Here's was Alexa's fee. She charged $299 as a one-time setup fee to make sure they were committed, and then she charged them $20 a month to be part of her education service. In 2015, 5 years after founding LearnVest, a company called Northwestern Mutual bought LearnVest for $250 million. Now, if Northwestern Mutual sounds familiar, that's the same company her dad had a life insurance with that saved her family when the dad died. In a recent interview, Alexa was asked if she was always this type of competitive person we talked about earlier. She says, oh my God, no. She says there are two kinds of people. There are competitors and achievers. Competitors are cutthroat people. She said, they got to beat the other guy, the other person. She says, I'm not, oh my God, I can't do that. She says, I'm an achiever. You know who I have to beat? I have to be better tomorrow than I am today. And if I do that, even if it's a little bit, I know I'll be better. Alexa calls herself an achiever.
I'm Alexa Von Tobel, founder and CEO of LearnVest.com. LearnVest is a program for your money. We're one of the first companies where you can go and get unlimited financial advice led by an expert for an affordable price. So it's basically a gym membership for your money.
A gym membership for your money. A lot of fun. Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea for LearnVest?
And I was trying to figure out my own finances, and I remember thinking, why is getting access to good, trusted advice so difficult? And I built a business plan and ended up winning a business plan competition and saying, this should be a consumer product. Whether you make $50,000 or $500,000, should be able to get access to someone who can tell you what kinds of insurance you need, how to refinance your mortgage, what you need to be doing for your children, what your budget should be, etc. I was client number one, and now we've been growing rapidly and raised almost $75 million.
We're here to talk a lot about STEM today,
Yep.
Science, technology, engineering, and math. What inspired you to go into a profession in math?
Starting in second grade, I was enrolled in advanced math and things like that. It was just always something I loved. We played like a ton of numbers games growing up. My parents were always pushing us. I've always been a science and math girl, so it's no surprise that my book, Financially Fearless, is all about the math of your personal finances. And to be honest, that's what I love about personal finance is I can take you right now and we can say, give me 89 data points and I can build you a financial plan, because at its core, it's math.
How do you think we can encourage more women to enter STEM professions?
Start teaching kids about money early on. It's such a simple concept.
It's not a conversation a lot of parents have,
Yeah.
which is why you started LearnVest.
Yeah, I mean, I have a radio show on Sirius called Financially Fearless with Alexa. The number of people that call in with their questions is astounding. It's been invaluable to how we think about better developing programs for people.
I know you have some show and tell items, and
Sure.
I love show and tell. So let's take a look.
This is from the first summer that LearnVest literally got up and running. We were in a
So
room.
this is jam.
Yeah, it's literally, because that summer I just was like, keep jamming. This is of my favorite person in the world, which is my grandfather and my husband. And I'm really fortunate my family's been able to like be my biggest cheerleaders. And then this is the hat that we made for the whole team. First, I wear it pretty much every single day or weekend.
I think I've seen pictures
I'm
of you
running
in it.
around. But it just, always remembering it is about the team, company first, us second, and making sure that we operate as a team. And I'm learning a lot about how to always do that better.
What is one piece of advice you have for women who hope to fill your shoes one day?
Think bigger, dream bigger, and then give yourself the confidence and the allowance to say that you'll get there. Get out of bed every day, give 120, 125%, take it one day at a time, but dream really big.
You are definitely a fearless founder.
Financially fearless. Thank you so much.
Now, I can't figure this out. I'm figuring she owned maybe close to 40% of the company when she, Northwestern Mutual. So Alexa probably left with about $100 million in her pocket, or something close to that. Not bad for a kid that at the age of 5, her dad says, "Hey, Alexa, if you read a book a day, I'll give you $10." Quite a person. I got 3 small business lessons from Alexa von Tobel that I think small business entrepreneurs can learn from. Alexa became successful because she did what she was obsessively passionate about: teaching financial literacy to millennials, even though everybody said it was a complete waste of time because they have no money and they don't care about that. Question, Mr. Small Business or Ms. Small Business Owner, are you doing what you're obsessively passionate about, or are you doing just what you can do to make a living? Makes a difference. Alexa started LearnVest to solve unanswered complaints that she and young people had about financial literacy. She knew there was a need there. Question for small business owners: does your company solve unanswered complaints, or do you ignore complaints and just do something better than your competitors? She found a niche. And number 3, I think, is even more important. Alexa did not let her lack of a track record or experience stop her from pushing her dream of LearnVest. She had never raised money before, and she had never run a company before, and she raised $1.1 million to run a company. What are you not doing to grow your business because you think you need more credentials? Alexa didn't, and do you? And that's my twin for this week on Ms. Alexa von Tobel.
Is the name still the same?
Yeah, learnvest.com, yeah.
LearnVest, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and subscription service. They didn't have $19,000, but you know what they had? They had $300, and they had $20 a month. At $4,500 the first day at $20 a month, it's $90,000. The first day. At the end of the first month, you had $10,000. You know how much that is a month? $200,000 a month subscription.
Yeah.
That's $2.4 million a year. Your first month.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah, and this is a kid who is not a competitor. Oh, no. And she follows the rules, but she heard a complaint and she went and did something about it. She acted on it. And by the way, she was all in. Like I say, she flew from Boston, New York. She was scared as hell. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. She was obsessed. And that's it.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Who started that subscription model anyway? I remember those days on the internet where they're always just trying to get a big chunk of change, and I forget.
Well, I did a twin, and I called him Wilmont because I didn't want people to know who I was talking about. And Wilmont was a wannabe entrepreneur, and Wilmont was struggling, and he was having trouble, and he had to return some videotapes to a store because he was running and they were late, and he was concerned I was going to tell his wife they had to pay a penalty. And he says, why can't I do what other people do? And he started a subscription service, and he called it Netflix.
Oh,
his name is Reed Wilmont Hastings is what his name is.
Yeah, interesting. And on that same note, before we head into the C block, or maybe we should head into the C block,
Yeah.
but as I'm listening to you earlier today, I thought we need a Frank Syringa Twin Award. when, and it can be in incremental awards, by the way. So say this group that we were talking to, the entrepreneurs, right? One of those people actually takes one of your steps and moves forward and achieves that step, whatever that step is, they get a twin award. They put up on the wall.
And we could announce it on this show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And announce it when you get your twin site up and running. Here are the people that won the Frank Syringa Twin Award.
There you go.
And if you think that you qualify, send in, your information.
Right.
And
Right.
and what a great way, I think, to one, inexpensively, almost at a zero cost, recognize achievement for people who actually didn't know any better, then learned from your twin and moved forward and did it. I don't know anybody else does that. I don't know that Tony Robbins does that. I don't know anybody of those people do that, but you could do
that. I like that a lot. And I go back to two more twins. First one was one we did, I think it was last week or last time. Yeah, last week, Jerry Morrell, the guy who failed at an oil business in Texas and tried to sell bottled water, and that didn't work out.
Right.
And he decided to do it.
Right.
Yeah, the Five Guys. And then I go back to one we did about a year and a half, 2 years ago with Sarah Blakely. And when she was a kid, her dad, I think it was every Friday night, once a week, he would sit down with her and her brother, and he'd always ask the same question: what did you fail at this week? He was training them that trying and failing is not as bad as not trying at all, because you might fail. And when Sarah started a company called Spanx, and she was the youngest female billionaire recognized by Forbes magazine, she says, so what if I fail? And as it turns out, she didn't. And she had a struggle, she flew to, I did the whole thing with the Nordstrom thing. But yeah,
I think I actually bought one of her products.
There you
go. Based on our twin.
Yeah.
My daughter, one of my daughters, twins, independently came up and wanted this thing, and it turned out to be the same woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah. So, again, in our meeting this morning, and we had a good discussion. I'm sorry you weren't there, Peter, because I knew you would have had it.
I'm sorry. I completely.
No, but it didn't work out. But the thing is, and what I told him at the end of the meeting was, what we started today is a process. We don't have any answers yet, but we know that we can think about it. I said, and we meet every 2 weeks, and when we meet in 2 weeks from now, we're going to get closer. Then we're going to get closer. We're going to get closer. And I'm going to talk about, I've already done I'm finalizing my twin for our next show. I hope it's going to be next week, of a successful serial entrepreneur. Serial. She is now on her fourth multi-million-dollar company. Fourth. And she doesn't start one and then sell and then start another one. She starts one sometimes almost within the same time frame. They asked her, why do you do that? And there's a hint of what I'm going to talk about next week. She says, because I'm afraid someone's going to beat me to my idea. So I started right away and own that idea. And that's what we want to do in our meetings. And we want to, if it doesn't work, it's okay. And we always try to do it in what we call bootstrap. Well, you're not going to throw away $10,000 and see if it works. No, you're going to try it zero cost. Like I like to do zero cost. Test it out. Talk to people, that type of thing. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Alexa, she needed the CTO and the engineer, so she needed $750,000. We don't have that kind of money. But there's no reason why we can't. Michael Hanna, remember Michael Hanna, the guy up in Portland who sold mattresses? He didn't have any money, but he was getting blown right by the big mattress stores. So he put a little cart in the back of a bicycle and delivered mattresses by bike. What did that cost him? $20 to $50, $100? And now he's the mattress guy in Portland, Oregon.
Interesting.
Okay, cool.
Well, okay, C Block, let's talk Facebook a little bit, or social media.
Yes.
As we mentioned before, I'm watching, it's the same stuff. Everybody is watching Zuckerberg, right? Well, you probably don't know this, but Zuckerberg used a bunch of excuses as to why they're not where they need to be with their security and protecting the privacy 10 years ago. he used the almost exact same excuse when brought up in front of everybody.
Facebook came with this kind of tech utopianism, and they just ignored it and marched forward with it. And then Cambridge Analytica happened. And I think no one would argue about like micro-targeting being an issue. But when anyone can get basically all this creepy amount of information about you, where you are, what you buy, like the exact locations that you go to, and can copy it and can use it for anything. That is really going so far that I do think it fundamentally threatens our democracy. So I agree, like government regulation gives me intense pause, but there's also there's something fundamentally wrong with Facebook where we keep having this discussion. And Mark Zuckerberg has been apologizing for these exact issues for 15 years now.
Well, that's the irony of this, is if you read Mark's apologies going back to his freshman year at Harvard,
Yeah.
when he apologized for Face Mash, which was pre-Facebook, it was a thing he made. It's in the movie. Not that the movie was particularly accurate, but if you saw the movie, you saw that he scraped pictures of Harvard students from the Harvard intranet and created a Hot or Not app that people would vote on it. And it raised a huge furor, and he had to write an apology in the Harvard Crimson, which, I should find it, because Zeynep Tufekci wrote about this in Wired this week. Sounds exactly like the apologies we're continuing to hear from Mark, almost word for word.
I have it up here.
Well, yeah, go ahead and read it if you want. The first apology from the Harvard Crimson is right at the top. She calls it his 14-year apology tour. I can read it. I've got it here.
Okay,
She said,
yes,
this is Mark writing in the Harvard Crimson. See if this sounds familiar. I hope you understand this is not how I meant for things to go, and I apologize for any harm done as a result of my neglect to consider how quickly the site would spread and its consequences thereafter. I definitely see how my intentions could have been seen in the wrong light. The problem is, Mark's been doing this since 2003. He's always apologized. He's always said we're going to do better. This is when the news feed was launched, which I forgot. Upset a lot of people because they thought they were sharing with family and friends, and suddenly their shares were showing up in the news feed. This was a big mistake on our part, says Mark, and I'm sorry for it. We really messed this one up. We did a bad job of explaining what the new features were and an even worse job of getting in control of them. 2007, remember the beacon advertising system? This offended me because I would see, my friends would see ads that said, Leo Laporte just bought adult diapers. Would you like to? And that's offensive. There was
Don't judge my private life.
50,000 Facebook users signed a petition saying, Facebook, stop invading my privacy. Listen to the words. We simply did a bad job with this release, and I apologize for it. I'm not proud with the way we handle the situation. I know we can do better. Except they never.
Has anyone ever asked him how they did better? Following a thing. I know we can do better. Well, how have you done better from the last time you
We just missed the mark. Another time, 2010. We heard the feedback. There needs to be a simpler way to control your information. In the coming weeks, we'll add privacy controls that are simpler to use. That's in 2010. Zeynep says, I'm going to run out of space, so let's jump to 2018. It goes on and on. And it's not, now, I have to say, I have a personal opinion about Mark that is not informed by having ever met him or knowing anything about him. And I'm afraid it's a fairly negative opinion. So I'm going to stand back and recuse myself from this. But I do feel like, remember, he has voting control of the company. He has never given up enough of the company to lose total control. Yeah. Zuckerberg is in absolute control of Facebook. There's nobody else. The board can't fire him. Nothing. I'm sure he hears voices from other people, I hope. But that he gets to choose.
As opposed to hearing them from where? Inside his head?
Yeah, you never know. I know that's unfair, Mark. I'm sorry. But I feel like he doesn't get it, or he doesn't care. Yeah. And he continues to break the rules. And I think at some point we need to say, okay, Mark, time's up. Yeah. Is that just me?
He doesn't intend to change.
No.
He intends to make you think he's going to change, but he's not going to intend to change. And to a large extent, You know, I see all these people trying to build their businesses on other people's platforms like Facebook, Yelp, etc. And and YouTube. All these people want to be YouTube stars. As a matter of fact, it's 8 out of 10 millennial kids. When you ask them what they want to do when they grow up, they want to be YouTube stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're pumping, and that's great for YouTube because they're pumping lots of content in there. Content is king, sort of. That used to be the standard rule, and that's quite different these days. But without anything, you don't have anything to look at. So in that way, content certainly is king. But these people are putting their heart and soul into it and make, you know, $10 a month or $5 a month now because their YouTube content isn't good enough quality to attract Procter & Gamble, for example. They don't want their ads connected to that. And interestingly enough, that whole thing started because people boycotted Rush Limbaugh. And one of the boycotts that were organized by the far left leading media was to attack the advertisers. And so the advertisers have become very aware of their ads being stuck on people's stuff that they didn't sign up for. You know, white supremacist, hate speech, whatever, and your ad shows up there just because the algorithm is that way. And so YouTube had to change their algorithm, and in changing their algorithm, they apparently torpedoed almost all the content providers because the content wasn't good enough to represent or have other items on there. Interesting. So people that were making a living of $6,000 a month went to $1,000 a month. Well, $1,000 a month off of YouTube is still good. I think you can't live off that, but I meant, shoot, most people don't even get that. But so same excuses, you know, use it for what you want, but also realize that in fact, everything you put up there, they own, including the snapshot of any picture you put up there. Facebook owns it, and they make no bones about it. They own that picture now. They can do anything they want with it. And I don't ever think that was the intent of the platform, privacy aspect, which, by the way, when you read the privacy aspect, it's all in legalese. Nobody can even understand it.
To quote Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, when he questioned, and he has a drawl, he said, you know, Zuckerberg, he says, to be kind, he says, your user agreement sucks.
Here's what everybody's been trying to tell you today, and I say this gently. Your user agreement sucks. You can spot me 75 IQ points. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. The purpose of that user agreement is to cover Facebook's rear end. It's not to inform your users about their rights. Now, you know that, and I know that. I'm going to suggest to you that you go back home and rewrite it. And tell your $1,200 an hour lawyers, no disrespect, they're good. But tell them you want it written in English, in non-Swahili, so the average American can understand it. That would be a start.
Right. I remember seeing that piece too, yeah.
He says it's like it's there to cover your behind, not anybody else's.
Right. We need it in plain English for everybody else.
Right,
But that's where this whole concept, and I've been nosing around to give a bigger talk on it, but isn't it very obvious right now that social media is failing most of the people? And that's because the business model for the social media, it's all about them and very little about you.
To Zuckerberg's credit, because do you see the movie The Social Network?
No, I have not seen
it. It was his story
Mm-hmm.
how he started Harvard School.
Actually, how he stole the product from the
from the Winkelwasser.
Exactly.
Right,
he stole it. He didn't invent it. He stole it.
Yeah, but and then he capitalized on it. And he did it strictly as the woman thing. Anyway, the rate woman. But to his credit, he glommed onto something. These people are willing to give me what they care about. Give me all this information. And they give me their permission because no one reads the user agreement.
Right.
He says, and you know who wants that information? Advertisers.
Advertisers, exactly.
And Facebook, about a year ago, told in one of their SEC analyst conference calls, says we've maxed out our our advertising revenue because we can't put any more ads. We'll have to start raising our ad rates because people want more and more ads. So that's his business model now, and that's why they're one of the most profitable companies in the world, and doing extremely well. I have, again, I guess I'm a libertarian at heart. I don't care if Facebook says, hey, if you're a Republican, or if you like Trump, or if you are anti-abortion, I'm going to stifle your talk. Okay, you're a private business. You can do anything you want. Are you getting any federal money? No, we're not. You can do whatever you want. I'll never go to your site again if I'm one of those people. Hopefully, someone will come back like the Roseanne Show or Fox News. I'll cater to the people who are that type of thing, conservative. That's okay, but don't tell me you're equal when you're not. Beyond, you can do anything you want as a private business owner. You do anything you want, but don't lie to me. If you lie to me, then I resent you. But say, hey, you know what? I don't like conservatives. Okay, then you don't like me. That's okay. I don't like you now. I never, I thought I did. Now I don't. So this thing about and then Zuckerberg said one other thing, and I give him credit for saying this. He's saying, I can see where this probably thing should be regulated. He says, I can handle the regulations. He said, because he's got the money. He says a startup can't. Are you going to be stifling startups because they can't handle the regulations you guys are going to put on Facebook? And it's a good point. So anyway, so that's my feelings about Mr. Zuckerberg.
Well, and they ask, well, okay, don't you have a monopoly? He said, I don't think so. But he does. There's no other place to go like Facebook. There's no conservative Facebook. There's no other place to go. He has no competition. So Zuckerberg really should have said, yeah, I want regulation. That would stifle any competition.
Yeah.
Although that's not inherently completely true. I mean, the regulation doesn't have to cost you anything. You just can't violate it. That's all.
Yeah, but I can't imagine any regulation that Washington puts on it doesn't cost somebody something.
Yeah, well, there is that. But I mean,
by the way, CNN had a monopoly at one time.
Yeah, that's true.
And now, and by the way, they still do in airports.
And bars and waiting rooms.
Yeah, they still do.
Communist News Network, as I like to call them.
Yeah, they still do. They still
do. It's all fake news, and there is no real news almost left anymore out there.
But you brought up a good point a little while. It's not the first time you've done it. The same point, and I've heard it from other people after I heard it from you. If you rely on Facebook to be the main vehicle for your business, you are subject to their whim.
Absolutely.
Just like that. But if you use Facebook to drive traffic, some traffic to your platform, they can change all the whims they want. You own your own platform.
That's right. And you can go to Pinterest, which is a visual media.
Right.
You can go over to Yelp, which of course is a testimonial type media. You can go. I mean, there are lots of other places you can aggregate and play the game of getting some eyeballs moving towards your website. And particularly now that Google is going to start, they've been trying to do this, maybe they're doing it already. Every post you make on Facebook, they're scanning for keywords.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, that it becomes more important for people to use it for business. Make sure and interlace your keywords into your post. The keywords that you scientifically find. We're back to the keyword, the keystone, ground zero.
The thing you talked about in the A block, I think thinking about that just now, the chart, you think,
right?
The spreadsheet. Diamond and Silk are the two black ladies. Yeah. They said, we're having the Diamond and Silk. No, by the way, because of the publicity, they're not going to be allowed back on Facebook.
Well, geez.
Yeah, thank you.
It took that much, and how many others get knocked off and don't have it?
You offer a service that says, so what if you're blacklisted on my Facebook? You control your own destiny as long as you have a robust, highly things that you do things.
Right.
That's what you did is extremely valuable, more so today because of what Facebook is going through.
I agree.
You control your platform.
Right, and the way it's distributive control. That's the key.
Right.
It's not a single point failure. Whether you do an Instagram, Facebook, all the others. You know, I mean, you need a strategy play, and that's you remember me talking to you about a company called Hootsuite?
Yes. Oh,
Today?
yeah.
Well, Hootsuite allows you to aggregate all of your social media accounts and make one post to all of them. Now, I literally got a little upset with that because you'd like to have them different. In some cases, you do need to make them different, no question, to make it a little easier. But now, what company can actually live without a social media person working every day, living on social media, putting out your press releases, but making them interesting, you know, keeping within the limitations of the culture of each particular social media, whether it be 140 characters or pictures only, you know, which lends you then in the graphics and infographics and things like that. I mean, building a website is actually a very small part of being successful on the web, but it has to take in the web, you know, 3.0 world. You know, we had Web 1.0, then we went to Web 2.0, and then now Web 3.0 was social media and video. Might be Web 4.0, hard to say. But, you know, you got to embrace all that to be successful.
Yeah.
There you
Good
go.
stuff. Good stuff,
Right.
man.
Anything else?
We got it.
All right, hang on.
Good night, Frank.
Say good night, Frank.
I already did.
There you